Hello. So, I thought it was quite funny that this session was called Be More Ambitious. Because my professional life has been driven by two things, neither of which I think you could really call ambition. So the first is that I'm basically unemployable, and the second is I'm inherently lazy. Now, I don't know the slides, do I? Unemployable. I'm basically totally incapable of having a boss, and I've got no definable skill set. So, for instance, my first ever job interview, I went into the job interview, I did it, I came back, I thought I'd pretty much smashed it. I came home, saw my girlfriend, I said, yeah, this is pretty much my job, I'm all in, no problem. And then the phone rang, and I thought, yeah, this is the hotline, it was a phone then. And I answered it, and it was the recruiter with some honest and open feedback for me. He said, the candidate was cocky, but vague. Now, that kind of upset me at the time, but you know what? You should probably play to your strengths. So I've kind of stuck with it, and I've become to love it over the years. The second, me being inherently lazy, this is I can't do any job that I don't really love. And if I'm not doing a job I love, then I just get bored, and I get distracted by other things quite often being lunch. So that's lunch, see? These two handicaps meant that I was only really suited to running my own businesses. And not just any businesses. They couldn't be real jobs. They had to be made-up jobs. They had to be the kind of thing that my mother would say to me 15 years later, what is it exactly you do again? And would still hold out hope that I would get a proper job eventually at some point. She'd say, you would have made such a good social worker, darling, or a banker, or a mayor. Anyway, hello, my name is Seth. This was me at some point. I've grown up in Bristol. I went to school in Henbury. I've delivered pizzas on mopeds around Cotton. I've dealt a bit of hash. I've worked in kitchens all over the city. And I've built some ridiculous businesses. You can't get much more Bristol than that, really. My current real jobs, not real jobs, are I run a company called Strange Thoughts, and Strange Thoughts works with emerging technology to tell stupid stories. I run a mind-controlled, beer-pouring robot rental service, which I think we can all agree is exactly what the world needs. I run a YouTube agency, which basically involves giving children massive amounts of money to make stupid videos and buy themselves cars. And finally, at the moment, I run a tech startup called Landmark, which is called by other people the Pokemon Go for brands. So maybe my mother does have a point after all. So, our friends at Creative England asked me to stand up here and talk about our successes. Well, I could do that, and I probably will try and stick a bit of self-promotion in later. But really, I thought it was perhaps more interesting to talk about the challenges that me and the teams I've had have found, the hurdles and the failures. I've been involved in tech startups in entertainment since 1999. When they weren't called startups, they were just called companies. And I've done a lot of failing. There was, for instance, that time where we were running a business, a really great tech startup, doing internet syndication and mobile marketing. It was based in a dojo by Temple Meads, a pretty much half-abandoned building. We were going to be the future of mobile. This was an amazing company. We had revenues, we had clients, we were like kings of the world, masters of the universe. I was skipping into work one day, the phone rings, Seth, we've got a problem. Like, no problem. Problems. I deal with problems all the time. What's the problem? The police. have arrested our investor. So that business had to shut down, 20 people that day, gone. Everyone had to go home. And we had to start again. And from the ashes of that company, we built a mobile marketing and distribution business called Indie Mobile. Oops, too soon on that. We went to the very first investor meeting, pitched the guy, said, this is it, this is the future, it's going to be amazing. At the end of the meeting, he took out his checkbook, because it was that long ago, and he wrote a check for 50 grand, gave it to me, and said, please don't lose it. Now, he may have just been talking about the actual physical check, because we didn't have a bank account. We hadn't even started the company yet. But that company did pretty well. It was at the right time, in the right place, mobile marketing and distribution, ringtones were big, mobile music was big, this stuff was all going on. And we thought we were oracles of the future. We saw what happened. Well, let's be honest, I thought I saw what happened. Whoa, don't know what that is. No, one more time. So we thought the mobile network operators were going to control the music business. They were going to save it from Napster, save it from piracy. The T-Mobiles and the Vodafones, they were going to run the music business around the world. So we built up a network of 300 telcos all around the world, deals with all those people, 3,000 record labels. We owned the rights, we were distributing, it was all going bloody brilliantly. We were annoying all the big boys out of our little office in Bristol. It was great, we were printing money, and we got an offer to sell from one of the biggest European music distributors. And that was a tough moment because, you know, do you want to sell that early? But we were looking at the market, and it was moving really quickly. And we didn't have that much cash in the bank in terms of cash flow. I was too inexperienced to raise money off VCs, and a bit late anyway. And we were either going to run out of cash or miss the boat. So I had to make a decision, and we sold. And they said, don't worry, you're an amazing company. We love everything you do, everything. Your Bristol office, all those people are going to stay. Don't worry about the fact that we're based in Belgium and London. You stay in Bristol, you're amazing as you are. We're just going to own you, that's it. And then literally a few months later, something called the iPhone came along, which I failed to notice or predict. And what that meant was suddenly Apple owned music on phones. The network operators all pulled out. Essentially, the company I'd just sold to the big record label distributor. Oh, I've done it again, sorry. Pias. Come on. There you go. I'd sold to this big distributor was basically worthless. So they shut down the company, they shut down the Bristol office, had to fire 80% of the staff. The other 20% had to be relocated to London and get different jobs. And Pias was stuck with me on a 3-year earn-out as a director with a job I didn't love. So I can't say I was terribly interested in the runnings of a record label. I wasn't particularly interested in running a distribution business for someone else. So I took the remaining employees that were there, and we thought about it. I had nothing to do that interested me. The dream was in tatters, and worst of all, I had a boss. Not something I like. So we decided maybe we could build, inside PS, a startup that had nothing to do with record labels, or music for that matter. And if we did it very, very quietly, they might not notice. So we did. We built an agency called PS Media, and it was really pretty successful. We won global clients, Reebok, Skype, O2, all on retainer. We did some of the first early augmented reality back in 2009, life-size stuff for the gorillas. We did virtual reality. We're doing amazing technology, amazing stuff. Brilliant. Obviously, they did eventually rumble us and said, thing is, Seth, if you're going to run your own thing, at least have the decency to pay for your own rather long lunches. So we quickly It looks like this is just photoshopped, but in actual fact, they had boxes with my name on. I lose track. So, we arranged a management buyout. Out we go, start again, 2 staff. And of those 2 staff have been with me across 4 or 5 businesses since then. And in fact, are my co-founders in both Landmark and Strange Thoughts. So, Strange Thoughts was the company that was born out of that particular movement. Strange Thoughts is very much a Bristol concept. So the brilliant Claire Reddington and Dick Penny over at Watershed and Pervasive Media Studios introduced me to this amazing idea called radical collaboration. And that is where you take people from different disciplines, you stick them in a room, you shake it around, and you see what comes out. So you take, for instance, a clicker that doesn't work. Thanks. So you take a choreographer, a roboticist, a particle physicist, we'll catch up. There we go, that's our choreographer. That's our roboticist, that's our particle physicist, and a games designer, and you give them a brief, and you just see what they come up with. And there was just amazing, beautiful results coming out of the studio and coming out of the Watershed. And I thought, how can I take something that's so brilliant, so pure, so innovative, and use it to flog more shit to brands and give me a job I liked in Bristol? And it was from this lofty vision that Strange Thoughts was born. So, Strange Thoughts does all sorts of stuff. It basically takes emerging tech and does silly things with it instead of useful things. So over here is a translating dog collar, you know, like the one in Up, called What's Yap. Over here is a cloud harvester used to fly high up in the clouds, suck in the cloud, take the water out, and brew beer called Sky PA. You're getting a theme here. These, I don't know if you can see them, brilliant inventions for Yo Sushi. Napkin holder on your head, a splash guard for your noodles. We also do lots and lots and lots of other silly things. And actually, we've grown that little business into a business that this year so far has already billed 4 million quid in fees. And it's based on a bunch of Bristolian brilliance, independent people, hot desks, and just bringing together people around this idea of radical collaboration. Sometimes we accidentally do something useful. Now, let's not get carried away, not incredibly useful. So we make products just by accident, and then we think, actually, we could resell this to some other people. So one of those products, we've got both those products. One of those products is the mind-controlled beer-pouring robot. Everyone thought this was a bit stupid. We are renting that out all around the world to massive companies. We've now got a fleet of them. That's actually a business in its own right, ridiculously. The other thing that came out as a product is Landmark. You may remember the Pokemon Go for brands. And that is taking up a lot of my time at the moment because that is a really exciting and interesting business. Landmark started with an idea or a challenge that came into Strange Thoughts. A record label, lots of record labels in this talk, record label came in and said, we've got this band called Alt J. Band called Alt J, and they want people to hear their album in beautiful places around the world. So what we'd like you to do is build us smart benches that can go in parks, will Bluetooth to headphones and play the album. So the album's embedded in these benches before it's out on Spotify, before it's out on iTunes. I said, that is an amazing idea. You are so clever, Mr. Record Label. That's going to cost you about £1 million. How much have you got? They said, we've got £20,000. I said, well, that's not going to cut it. But you could do the same thing with geofencing. So you could create an app, in this case, and you could activate all the parks around the world, 2,000 parks around the world, and you could only hear the album when you walked into those. This was a massive success, 77,000 downloads in the first week, 800,000 listens to the album in the first week. Everyone loved it. I looked at it and I thought, you know what, actually this might be quite useful for some other people. This could actually be a product. We might even be able to sell this twice. Not something Strange Thoughts is very good at doing. Then Pokemon Go appeared. And suddenly, of course, people will move for a digital experience. So then we're going, okay, shit, we were ahead, now we're behind, but there's something really, really good here. And that company now, Landmark, we raised a bit of investment from some rather brilliant people, who I'll come to in a sec, never fear. So we raised $250,000, we built an MVP, we got it out there, and we are now live. We're running campaigns in 99 countries. We've got Unilever as clients, all of the major record labels. This is activating New York, Manhattan for the TV series Homeland. We're doing a bunch of TV, bunch of travel and tourism, all sorts of industries using it all around the world. 1.2 million people have already been moved on this platform, so made to go from their location to a different location for a digital reward. But nothing's ever simple, or maybe it's just my life, I don't know. So fundraising should have been easy. We were hot as fuck. Everyone was just, I mean, they're just going, VCs are gonna love you. Yeah, you passed. You know, it's amazing. Why don't you just raise 1.5 now, and then you can just go straight, and you won't have to worry about it. Supersede, brilliant. So, I don't know, maybe 100 meetings, maybe 150 meetings. Yeah, which VCs are good at, aren't they? No, wrong. And the problem is, you've got to keep paying wages, and you've got to keep building a business. And growing a tech business fast is a loss-making enterprise. So we're running out of runway. In fact, we're so running out of runway, we get down, and bear in mind, this is only 5 months ago, we get down to, we've got a week left of money. I'm going to have to fire all the bloody staff. We're doing amazingly, and I'm going to have to fire everyone. This is rubbish. And then, at the last minute, oh no, sorry, that's the burning, shit's going bad. At the last minute, we managed to pull in some investors, some of whom are in Bristol, I'm very pleased to say, which is a rare thing, with the help of guidance, advice, panic, and my phone book. We eventually managed to pull around together in a week. No one got fired, everyone's happy, we're away to the races. And now, 3 months later, I got a phone call from this company who's quite good at maps. And they said, hi, we're the Google team out of LA. We saw your brilliant platform, and we want you to run all of our campaigns in New York and Hollywood. It's Google. What? Okay, sure. And we're going live with them next week. And they phoned a month ago. I mean, it's totally insane. And I always thought this kind of Silicon Gorge stuff was kind of bollocks, made up by, I don't know, Nick Sturge or someone. But actually, maybe, if Google can ring up a little company in Bristol and say, can you activate our US properties, then you know what, maybe Gorge might have something, Valley might have, I don't know. Not going to give them any credit. Anyway, which brings me nicely back to Creative England. When Landmark was just a twinkle in the Strange Thoughts eye, they backed us. They lent us 100K. They lent Strange Thoughts 100K to build this company, to build this idea, and to actually start taking it somewhere. And since then, they've backed us again and again, not just financially, but they've also just been there as a support network, I guess, as they are today, which I guess is why I'm standing here. Without the amazing support and inspiration coming from places like Watershed, Pervasive Media Studios, Creative England, even those suits over at Engine Shed, without this fucking amazing city that has all this passion and this power and these amazing support networks, then we certainly wouldn't exist, and I don't think a lot of others would. And not just, the big obvious success stories from Bristol, but well, I guess they are pretty big now. The Reach Robotics, the Open Bionics, these people who've just done amazing creative things and built something wonderful out of them. So you're about to get rid of me, but just a couple of takeaways before I go. Yeah, you like that one. Building a business is really, really hard. Building businesses is really, really hard, and you are going to fail a lot. And sometimes it's your fault, quite a lot of time. Sometimes it's someone else's fault, and sometimes it's just really bad luck. But the thing about my job is that if I fuck up, nobody dies. And that's really important, and I like it that way. And if I don't fuck up, and we have a really good day, and we produce some joy, and we make some money, and we give some people brilliant jobs that make them happy to get up in the morning, then that is a pretty good day. And I like good days. Thank you.